Hi everyone, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. Today is a special tutorial. I'll be making something a little bit more savory sweet. We're making 3 dessert style pizzas and baking them off in the Everdure Kiln Pizza oven. A huge thank you to Everdure for sending us this pizza oven so we can make some delicious dessert pizzas and just have some fun. I have received this pizza oven free of charge and I'm not being paid to say anything in particular. All the opinions in this video are very much my own. I'll be treating this tutorial like an unboxing and a recipe video in one. So they've been very gracious as to sending us a few other attachments here, accessories here as well. We have the thermal gun, the pizza cutter, the covers for the actual pizza station that we've also received, and a cover for the pizza oven. I'll be storing this undercover, but I still like to have a cover just to make sure that it stays clean for when you're preparing food on it and whatnot. Also just to keep little things out of the oven. God forbid we had like a possum or something crawl inside, or it's just good to have to also protect it from the weather. They also make a pizza peel that is 14 inches wide, I believe, with a detachable handle, which comes really in handy for storage. To have like a, with the pizza station, a drawer at the base. If you were to take off the handle, this fits in there perfectly, so you can just store everything all in the one spot. We're going to start off by opening up the oven. It comes in a box that looks like this, and it's kind of heavy. Me and my sister were strong enough to be able to lift it up and put it onto a temporary table while I did a bit of an unboxing here, but you definitely need another person to lift it. Inside the mouth of the oven you'll find your stones, and at the base there is a cast iron rotation device, which is what really got me interested in this particular oven, because it negates the need to use a paddle or a pizza peel to turn your pizza. It just does it all for you, cooks nice and evenly. Slot your stones in at the front, install the batteries and the gas tank, and you're ready to go. Some key features, if anyone's wondering: this pizza oven can fit a 16-inch round pizza, can heat up to 400 degrees in 15 minutes and go even higher than that. The stone is removable so you can clean it up, and there's 2 dials, one for the under burner and one for the U burner. There's also a button to rotate the stone, and then the actual bench top is of stainless steel, including the buckets. You can also pull out the shelves, and there's a storage container at the bottom. It can be used for your pizza oven, or you can just have it as is for a prep station. It's on caster wheels, so you can move it around and reposition it wherever you like. On to the recipe. Here I've got some bread flour, water, yeast and honey. I'm going to mix this all together, and the ingredient amounts will be listed in the description box for you. Basically, you want to mix this all together, cover it, and then let it rest in the fridge overnight. You can even leave it on your bench top to rest overnight as well. Either one works, but refrigeration just means that it can last a little bit longer if you can't get to it immediately the next day. It is the next day, and in my standing mixer, I've added the bread flour and water. I'm going to mix this together, just the 2 ingredients, until I have this shaggy looking dough. I'm going to let that rest for half an hour for the flour to really absorb that water, and then we'll add in our POOLISH, which basically looks like sourdough starter at this point, and then let that mix. Once it starts to come together after a couple of minutes, you can add in your salt and let that run with the hook attachment for about 10 minutes. Should look a little something like this, maybe even more homogeneous looking, but this will still work nicely. I emptied it out onto my bench top, and then I'm just going to grab it from the sides, lift it, stretch it, fold it, and continue to fold until you form like a ball that is less sticky than when you started. If you need to make it less sticky, rather than adding flour, just wet your hands instead. Cover it with cling film with a little bit of oil on top if you like. I didn't add any oil and the cling film came off nicely, but if it doesn't, next time just add a little bit of oil. Give it a fold after a good hour. I like to kind of stretch it and really help that gluten to form. And then continue to fold until it sort of loses that elasticity, becomes nervous, doesn't want to stretch anymore, and then roll it into a ball. You can technically do this once every half hour instead, about 4 times. What I did was waited an hour, and then I folded another 2 times in half-hour intervals. Back into the container she goes with a little bit of oil on top, the cling film, and then a towel just to keep that away from light. After 3 or so hours for me, depending on the temperature in your kitchen, it should look a little something like this. It might only take an hour for you, but basically it's doubled in size and jiggly. Dust your countertop with a little bit of flour, turn out your dough, and then using I've got just a metal scraper here, I am going to be measuring them out to about 250 grams per dough ball. Give it a good fold, rotate a quarter of the way and fold, and then pull that dough ball towards you as you rotate a quarter of the way each time. That creates a nice tight skin over the top, and it just helps to strengthen the dough. Continue this until all your dough is done. I ended up with about 12 balls or so. And then just adding a little bit of flour onto my scraper so I can pick it up and put it into a bucket. You can buy a dough proving bucket. I just bought these from Bunnings. It was like 15 bucks for the lid and the container, which is awesome. And it keeps it from drying out as well, so it's pretty cool. Let that double in size, and in the meantime preheat your kiln oven. So you want to keep this on low for half an hour. I got the bottom burner burning as well with the rotation on, so you always want to make sure that your stone is rotating when the bottom burner is on. After half an hour I pumped it up to full power and let that come to 450 degrees. This is semolina flour that I've got on my bench top here, and I'm just going to press in the middle, pushing the air out to the sides, and then gonna stretch it over my hands, rotating it by sort of throwing it in the air and catching it again. I'm not a pro at this, very novice, but it's so much fun. You want to take a fork and then pierce lots of tiny holes all over the surface, but not on the very edge. You want to keep that so it's nice and fluffy and puffs up around the corners. Then add a little bit of semolina so it doesn't stick to your paddle, and then launch the pizza into the middle, pressing that button to then start rotating. I always like to have the stone stationary when I launch, and then I'll turn on the rotation. I'm not going to edit this part. I'd like you guys to be able to see in real time how this works and how long it takes in person to sort of start rising and cook. This was at about 460 degrees Celsius on the stone, and I've got the flame on full blast. You can see just the kind of outer ring is puffing and the middle is staying flat. That's because we pierced those holes. If you don't use a fork to pierce the holes, you will end up with pita bread. It'll just balloon all over the place, and it's not really usable for the project that we're trying to do. That is a flat pizza. Then you can stop the rotation of your stone when you pick up your pizza again. Just makes it a little bit easier and it doesn't slip off the paddle. I like my pizzas to be a little bit smoky, so I'm sure at this point most of you would probably have taken it out. I actually really like those charred bits. I know it's not healthy, but it's just so tasty. So it's a good idea to stop the stone and then grab your pizza. We're making 3 different flavors, so I have 3 different bases that are going in and cooking. Have a play around with this as well. You might find that lowering the gas works better, so you get a bit more of a cook underneath. From my experience though, 460 degrees with the flame either on high or on low, it's cooked it nicely, so it browned underneath. It had a little bit of spotted bubbles, so that for me was perfect. This one here could have used a couple more piercings from the fork. Ended up bubbling a little bit too much in the middle, but that can be fixed and I'll show you how. But first, some audio of the crunch. Ooh. So it's nicely cooked at the bottom as well. I can see those little spots, and it's aerated all along the crusty edge. To create a flat surface, I'm literally just taking my fork and pressing it down in those raised areas. For the first flavor, we have Nutella. So I've got my Nutella that has been heated up in the microwave for about 30 seconds, so it's nice and fluid. And I'm just going to create some zigzags in the opposite direction. This all looked really nice, but I really like my Nutella, so I just kept adding until it kind of all blended into one. And then top it with your fruit, maybe some icing sugar if you like. It's sweet enough, so I skipped out on the icing sugar. The second flavor is a white chocolate and raspberry. These are broken up pieces of frozen raspberry with heavy cream and white chocolate. Again, the recipe will be listed in the description box below. You'll want to microwave it and then mix it till it's melted, but I wanted some of those little white chocolate pieces to remain solid. Place it in the middle, spread it out, and then back into the oven she goes, just for about 10 to 15 seconds to let that kind of flavor become a little bit more cooked through on the fire. It kind of bubbles, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like it creates a bit more depth of flavor. You can see it bubbling there and thickening, which is awesome. And then for our third pizza flavor, we have a s'mores inspired one. So this is peanut butter. I'm cutting up these large marshmallows, placing them along the edges. And then we're going to toast these back in the oven. So it's only going to stay for 10 seconds. The marshmallows will torch very, very quickly. So I'd also recommend putting down the flame to minimum power and keeping a very close eye on it. While it did torch, they didn't actually burn it too much, so get some nice charred flavor there. On top of that, you can drizzle on some melted milk chocolate, and for contrast, a few more slices of the cut up marshmallow. And there you have 3 delicious dessert style pizzas cooked in the Everdure Kiln Pizza oven. I hope you guys enjoyed this different tutorial and give these a go. You can cook them in your regular oven. I'll have those directions for you at the bottom as well. But if you haven't tried cooking pizza on a live fire in a wood fire oven, whole new ball game. I really like the way this one here cooked the pizzas. I think it did a great job, especially because the base can turn. So it's even cook on the outside, but the fact that it heats underneath, that was my biggest thing. And it did cook nicely on the bottom. That's usually my problem. The workbench is incredible as well, by the way. The quality of the metal, the quality of the build is really good. It didn't feel like it was buckling underneath the weight of the pizza oven. So I highly recommend that as well. I hope this video was helpful to anyone out there researching pizza ovens, or this one here in particular. I'll have a link in the description box if you'd like to check it out and do a little extra research. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope it was helpful, and we'll catch you again in the next one.